Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
I want to talk a lot about women and work in America because this is something that you have really recently been very outspoken about. You say the flood of discussion about women and the workforce in this country recently has neglected one big thing. What is that?
Well, I would say this, that until recently, structurally, women were held back. They still are to some degree. I mean, they are not getting a totally 50-50 shake. But you know, for 150 years after we said all men are created equal, we treated women, you know, as totally second-class citizens, and so we ignored all this talent. That's getting corrected to a degree, although there's a ways to go on that. And then the second problem is whether women believed it when they sort of got what I would call brainwashed. And I use the example of Catherine Graham, who was an incredible person, bright as all get out.
The first female CEO of a Fortune 500 company, the Washington Post company.
Sure, and in all kinds of ways, you know, a top-notch individual. But she had been told by a mother, by a husband, by the whole world that women couldn't do as well in business, you know, as men. And I said she saw herself in a funhouse mirror that others presented in front of her, and as successful as she was, she never totally got over it. I mean,
never?
It shows how strong, you know, a message can be. You know, the message my sisters heard, that, you know, they didn't hear it verbally. They just heard it through all kinds of actions of people, that they didn't have the same future I had.
Well, so it's interesting because you saw this play out in your own family.
Sure.
You had two sisters who you say that your floor was their ceiling.
Mm-hmm. No.
Was that parenting? Was that society?
It was society, but it came through parenting. It came through their teachers. In every way, they were told that, you know, sort of the best thing was if they married well, and I was told that you know, that everything in the world was available to me. I was born in 1930. If I'd had exactly the same wiring I have, but I'd been a female, my life would have been entirely different. You know.
Be candid with me here on this. You're saying this now, at 82 years old.
Yeah, right.
When did you realize this, and why are you speaking out about it now? Because if you saw it happening with your sisters back then, did you just think, well, that's the norm?
Well, for a long time. I don't know whether I think maybe even in my 30s. I mean, for one thing, I had a daughter that was terrific, and it's all kinds of potential for her, and I had a wife that was terrific. But I have talked about, I have 40 universities and colleges that send out groups, and I've talked about it with them for many, many years, and I don't know what inspired. Well, I read Sheryl Sandberg's book, and I just sat down and wrote a foreword to it. I sent it to her. For one reason or another, it didn't exactly fit there, but I decided if that was a message that should get out, that why not put it out myself?
So it was this lean-in movement, Sheryl Sandberg, Marissa Mayer of Yahoo, becoming CEO as she's pregnant and talking openly about that. We are seeing this renewed discussion about the role of women, and you make the business case, not surprising, you're a businessman, that women are the major reason the U.S. will do so well. Why do you think that is?
Well, look at what we've accomplished using 50% of our talent. So just imagine if we use 100%.
But we've used more than 50. I mean, I have a job.
Yeah, well, no, but I'm going back away. Right. For 150 years. I mean, you could have been a secretary, a nurse, a retail clerk, but you could not have been. You probably couldn't have been a lawyer. You probably couldn't have been a doctor. You probably couldn't have, you know, become a partner in an investment firm or anything of the sort. Those were just closed, and nobody really thought too much about it, apparently. I mean, you know, we didn't pass the 19th Amendment till 1920, and even then, you know, we had 33 justices appointed to the Supreme Court before, you know, we finally got to a female.
So I wonder if your message is more for women or more for men?
It's for both. It's for both. Men should realize that, you know, there's this. Well, if they had male workers, and those workers could accomplish more if they had more education or whatever it might be, they'd jump on that in a second. And to take half the people and not recognize that they have just as much potential as the others and use them, is a big mistake. But it's for both. It's for women to throw away the funhouse mirror and start seeing themselves in a real mirror. And I think a great many do. That has changed a good bit over the years. But there's room to go.
But you've also said that one of the greatest enemies of this change, you wrote this in your Fortune essay recently, may be the, quote, ingrained attitudes of people who just can't imagine a different world. Now, we see that play out in places like Afghanistan, and we see that play out in different ways, I think, here, too, in the United States.
Sure.
How prevalent of a problem do you think that is in 2013?
Well, I think it still exists. I think it's different in different professions. I mean, if you get probably maybe a majority, I'm not sure what the numbers are, of women in law school or in medical school, I mean, that's a real change. When I went to business school at Columbia, there was exactly one woman in the class.
We're seeing more women getting higher degrees than men in many fields.
Sure. So it changes very fast there, but it varies by profession, by maybe even
geographical
regions, for all I know. But it is moving. I'm glad to see that. Well, in my own case, when I have these college groups come out, university groups come out, I insist that 1/3 of the group from every school be women. And if I hadn't insisted on that, I saw what was happening initially, and I don't know whether it was 90% or 95% men if I asked a variety of big schools to come out. So I just said 1/3 women, and it changed it.
So you insist on a quota?
Well, I insisted on at least 1/3 women, yes.
So what about in American business? Because if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, less than 20 have female CEOs. Less than 20.
Yeah.
Is corporate America losing out big time?
Well, it's a mistake not to use all the talent. We have one woman at Berkshire Hathaway that is now chairman of 4 companies, but that's all new, and she's doing a terrific job. It comes slowly, and partly there's just a mindset that's different. At Berkshire, we have 13 directors. The 6 over 80 are all men. The 6 under 60 are half women and half men. I mean, they're the future.
So as you've been more outspoken about women and the workforce, there are some that have come back at you and said, what about Berkshire Hathaway? You've got 70-plus companies, and you have 5 female CEOs, and only 3 of your 13 board members are women.
Yeah,
they think, should change be happening at Berkshire? Should you be doing this?
Change is happening at Berkshire, and the last 5 directors that have been appointed, 3 are women. And I really look at the ones under 60 as being the board of the future. We're not going to throw anybody off the board that's in their 80s, but half of the younger members are women. And in terms of CEOs, I have probably only appointed maybe 6 or 7 CEOs because they come with the businesses and they stay. We don't have a retirement age. So I appointed a woman as CEO of Johns Manville recently. That's sort of unusual in the building materials business, but she was by far the best candidate.
There is not a diversity policy at Berkshire Hathaway.
No.
Why is that?
Well, because there are very few policies that we run probably the most decentralized operation. I know it's the most decentralized operation of any really large company. So our managers run their companies, and we have 24 people at headquarters. We have 280-some thousand working out in the field. So I convey some views through op-ed pieces or whatever it may be. I don't tell our managers how to run their business. And if there's a new CEO needed, I make that decision. But that's very rare.
When there is a new CEO needed or a new board member, do you look specifically more at women to see if there's a woman of equal caliber to take the job, to have that diversity?
And probably, I'm going to pick the best person at the end.
Right.
But if there are 2 that are 9 on a scale of 10, and one's a woman, she's probably going to get the job.
Was there a shift when that happened, that you started doing that?
I never really appointed that many. If you go back over the years, I mean, I have not made that many choices on CEOs. We bought the Pampered Chef, which had a woman running it when we bought it. Now it has a different woman running it. But we put in at Helzberg's, we put in the first woman CEO. I put in the first woman CEO. We had at Johns Manville, the same thing. So, but there haven't really been a lot of changes in our managers over the years, and there won't be. But there will be some.
When you look at succession, everyone always asks you who will succeed you eventually at Berkshire Hathaway. Not many people know. You have a list, and I know that you said there's 3 candidates and they're all men.
They are all men.
Have you considered a woman for the post?
Well, I would consider one, but they are all men.
You talk to the CEOs of the biggest corporations around the world, and I'm wondering what your take is on their position on women in the workforce right now. What do they say to you? Do they seem very committed to wanting to see more equality in the workplace?
Well, I think some are, and I think there's change going on, but it's fairly slow, and that's one reason I wrote the op-ed piece.
Are there any examples of people that you think are very progressive in this?
Well, I think there are, but I wouldn't like to pick out names because I might exclude somebody that is, and we have investments in a number of companies. Certain of those companies, I think, I'm not talking about ones we control, and I think certain of those companies, the CEO has a strong commitment.
So some are, but some aren't.
I think that's true.
So talking about the education of girls, this is such an important thing, starting at a very young age. Make the economic argument for the value of investing in girls' education. I know it's something that your daughter Susie focuses on in her philanthropy right here in Omaha, but not just in the United States, but around the world, in places like Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, to some extent, well, certainly through the Gates Foundation, we're doing significant things on that, and actually the foundations run by my children to some extent have gotten into that. No, the world existed in this crazy system of second-class citizenship for women, for thousands of years, in all kinds of societies, different religions. I mean, religion reinforced it. And here we write the Declaration of Independence, and then the Constitution contradicts it. I mean, it says all men are created equal. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, on Article 2 on the President uses male pronouns straight through it. So it's amazing. I think if I'd been born a female, I'd have been very unhappy about it.
What is the economic argument for investing in women's education? First here in America.
The economic argument for investing in education generally is to enable people to rise to their potential. I mean, anybody that doesn't get a chance to fulfill their potential, is being shortchanged. And when they're shortchanged, the country's shortchanged too. I mean, if we were only educating people through the 8th grade, we'll say, in this country for some reason, they would suffer. America would suffer in a huge way. You can't leave lots of people below their potential and reach your potential as a country.
On the question of investing in girls' education around the world, how important is it, and does it pay off?
Well, it pays off for society to enable anybody to come close to their potential. I mean, just think of the great people that have existed, throughout our own country's lifetime, and if they'd been held back in any way, it would have been a great loss to the country. So we want everybody to find their potential. That's a goal we'll never reach, but striving toward it is very important. It's important in the United States, and it's important in the world. We can't influence that to any great degree in many countries. Now, I believe in women's reproductive freedom because I don't think a woman has a chance or many women would not have a chance to reach the potential that they would want to reach unless they do have reproductive freedom. So we support that big time around the world, and I think that's a terrific investment, and I think it frees millions and millions of women to have more control over their destiny than they would otherwise have.
Your son Peter has called girls the most marginalized people in the world, and he spends a lot of time overseas working on girls and
he and his
education.
wife both, Peter and Jennifer both. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you agree with him that girls are the most marginalized group in the world?
I don't. It depends on how you would define it. I mean, certainly, racial things marginalize people too, and many ways. But certainly, I mean, just in terms of numbers, obviously it's true, and I feel terrific about the fact that Peter and Jennifer, are focusing on that area.
It's interesting. You've said that your daughter Susie is the model for what you hope all women will be.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that?
Well, she does not see herself in a funhouse mirror. She sees herself as what she is. She has organizational ability. She's smart. She's energetic, and she puts her passions to work in a foundation that she works on for young children. It never crosses her mind that she can't do something because she's a woman.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, her mother, probably, in a big degree, probably to me, I believed in her. People need, unconditional love is the most powerful force in the world, and having somebody believe in you. My dad particularly believed in me. He believed in my sisters too. He just had been conditioned in a way that he didn't see himself. He didn't see them in the same position as he saw me. And it wasn't anything conscious. He loved them just as much. It just didn't cross his mind.
Did you consciously make the choice, raising two sons and a daughter, not to do that?
Well, I don't know exactly how to describe consciously doing it, but it was certainly my wife and I agreed 100% on it that all our kids should have equal opportunities. When I set up foundations for each of the three, they were all in equal amounts. They all had full authority over what they did with those foundations. I do not see my sons and my daughter through different eyes.
I think one really important part of this discussion is that there have been some that say the rise of women means the downfall of men.
That's crazy. That's like saying if you educate more people, it hurts the ones that are already educated or something of the sort. Let's just assume that for some reason we decided that men under 5'10" or whatever the number might be, some median number, should only have a few types of jobs, and men over that height should, have everything open to them. Is the society going to be better off if you make that kind of an arbitrary decision? It's just crazy to let any human operate below their potential when just by changing the rules a little, you can give them a better chance to meet their potential.